Hello students, I am Dr. Sarika Swami, working as Assistant Professor in Department of Pediatrics, and I am going to teach you today on seizures and epilepsy. Now first of all, what seizure is and what is epilepsy? Seizure is a broader term under which comes any type of seizure, and it is actually transient occurrence of signs and or symptoms which result from abnormal, excessive or synchronous neuronal activity in the brain. While on the other hand, epilepsy is enduring predisposition of brain to generate epileptic seizures, and it also encompasses the consequences of this condition, that is what neurobiological, cognitive and psychological and social impact the condition is having on the life of the child, that is also included under the heading of epilepsy. Operational definition of epilepsy is two or more unprovoked seizures occurring more than 24 hours apart. That means at least two seizures should be there, and those two or more than two seizures should be more than 24 hours interval, and they should be unprovoked. Then only it comes under the heading of epilepsy. Unprovoked means the seizure has not been provoked by any condition like fever or some metabolic problem or some intracranial infection. So that is called the epilepsy, and it is operational definition of epilepsy, and this definition excludes febrile seizure, which is a separate entity. It also excludes neonatal seizures. It also excludes acute symptomatic seizures which occur because of metabolic imbalance or because of intracranial infections like meningitis. This also excludes multiple episodes of seizure which occur within 24-hour period. And if single episode of status epilepticus occurs, then also it is excluded from the definition of epilepsy. But if two episodes of status epilepticus are there and they are 24 hours apart, then this can be included in the definition of epilepsy. Then coming to classification of seizures, seizures are broadly divided into generalized seizures and focal seizures. Generalized seizures when whole of the body of patient is involved in the seizure activity, and focal seizures when the abnormal activity is restricted to one part of the body. Generalized seizures are of tonic-clonic type, absence seizures which may be typical or atypical types, myoclonic seizures, clonic seizures, tonic seizures and atonic seizures. And focal seizures may be of three types: focal aware seizures, focal seizures with impaired awareness, and focal seizures which evolve to bilateral convulsive seizures. So what is tonic-clonic seizure? It is a commonest form of seizure. It starts with a sudden cry or sudden unconsciousness, which is associated with uprolling of eyeballs or clenching of fists. There first occurs the tonic contraction of the limbs, that is followed by clonic movements, and then the patient recovers. And this episode may be associated with bowel and bladder incontinence. The child doesn't have a memory of the events which occurred during the seizure, and postictal phase is common, that is in the form of uh, drowsiness, or the child goes into sleep. As the name suggests, it is a period of absence from the present activity, that is sudden brief cessation of activity in the form of blank look or blinking of eyes. There is no loss of consciousness or tone, and child regains the activity which he was occurring which he was doing before occurrence of seizure. There are no postictal events, and these seizures can be easily precipitated if we tell patient to hyperventilate. EEG in these seizures characteristically shows 3 Hz spike and wave discharges. Now, myoclonic seizures. One very important thing which you should remember in reference to myoclonic seizures is that it is lightning fast. The duration is very short, and there is a contraction of muscle which leads to loss of tone or posture. Say if the child is holding a glass in his hand, he may throw that, or the glass may fall from child's hand, or say the child is holding the brush in his hand, he may the brush may fall from the child's hand, and it may occur in the form of buckling of the knee and many such movements which are actually associated with contraction of single muscle group. It has varied etiology and outcome. Some seizure of myoclonic type may have very good prognosis like juvenile myoclonic epilepsy, but some of the seizures, epilepsy syndromes which are presenting as myoclonic seizures like subacute sclerosing panencephalitis, they have very bad prognosis.
फोन में देख, फोन में फोटो আছে
इन देख इन देख इन पड़े क्या अंदर सही बैठे रहे तो सही बैठ
सही बैठ, सीधो सीधो बैठ, सीधी लार दे, सीधो सीधो बैठ रही, सीधो बैठ, पल्ला मार बैठ।
Now coming to epidemiology of seizures, the incidence in developed countries is 40 cases per 1 lakh children per year. The prevalence in India is 5 to 22 cases per 1000 children. Prevalence is higher in developing countries because there is high incidence of adverse perinatal events in the form of perinatal asphyxia. There are higher chances of CNS infection, so also are the higher chances of seizures, and high incidence of head trauma is also there that causes a more seizure prevalence in developing countries. If we look at the recurrence risk, then after first episode of seizure, 40% chance is there that child will again have seizure, and if child has second episode of seizure, then 80% chances are there that seizure will recur in this child. When doing clinical evaluation of these children who have come to us with seizures, we need to give answers to some question. The first and foremost is it a seizure or a seizure mimic? Many seizure mimics are there which are more common than seizure itself, and it is important for us to differentiate the two conditions because the treatment is entirely different. Second question is whether the seizure has been provoked by some illness like fever or it is unprovoked seizure. Then whether this seizure is focal or generalized in onset, and whatever it is, then what seizure type it is, whether it is a myoclonic seizure or it is absence seizure or a tonic-clonic seizures. Then we should answer the question that are there any comorbidities in the form of mental retardation, cerebral palsy, etc., and whether the presentation of the child is fitting into some epilepsy syndrome, and what is the likely etiology of particular type of seizure. Then we have to confirm whether this paroxysmal event is a seizure or not. Then for that we should take a proper history from eyewitness. It is very essential because only the eyewitness can tell us properly what events occurred during the seizure. So if the child had seizure in the school, we can talk to the teacher in the school. We can ask the person who has accompanied the child to imitate the event, and we can also tell parents to make a video recording in their phone of the seizure activity. And 5 important aspects which we have to ask in relation to seizure are whether there was any aura in the form of headache or any visual problem or sinking sensation, Then how did the event start? Whether it started in one part of the body or started in whole of the body at once, how did it progress, then what are the accompaniments like, whether there was bowel bladder incontinence, whether there was uprolling of eyeballs like that, and what happened just after the end, whether the child regained his consciousness just after the event or the child lapsed into sleep or whether the child was drowsy. Now we should very well know in which child we have to go for EEG and in which we should not actually, because EEG is not required for every seizure. Ictal records are definitely useful to differentiate if we have doubt whether it is a seizure mimic or true seizure. Then sometimes by history we are not able to find out whether it was a focal onset seizure or generalized onset seizure. Then in that case EEG may help us. It may help us to diagnose epilepsy syndrome. It may sometimes help us to choose appropriate drug depending on pattern. It is helpful for us to rule out non-convulsive status epilepticus, and sometimes it also give us clue about etiological clue like SSPE, in which we clearly see a buzz suppression pattern. Then neuroimaging. Neuroimaging is also not required in every case of seizure. It is required if seizure is one of acute symptomatic type like stroke or meningitis, if the child has come in status epilepticus, if child is having focal epilepsy, because many of the common causes of focal epilepsy are identifiable on neuroimaging like neurocysticercosis and tuberculomas, or if we suspect some structural lesion, then we should go for neuroimaging. If the epilepsy is drug refractory, then also we should go for neuroimaging. If a child is having epileptic encephalopathy, then to rule out inflammatory pathology, we should go for neuroimaging in the form of MRI or CT scan. MRI is preferred over CT scan. Now coming to management of seizures, here I want to emphasize that seizure, our management is not just prescribing medicine. That means our job is not over once we prescribe the medicine. Actually it is a multidimensional approach, and because this disease is having major impact on family, social, lifestyle and financial aspect, so we have to manage that part also, and our goal is to achieve appropriate seizure control and seizure prevention. So there should be ongoing contact between the clinician, the child and family to ensure quality of life. Many of the times families are having a low feeling that why our child has been given with this disease. So it is our part, it is our duty to counsel them regarding the disease and to give them positive support so that they can handle the child very well. So in that reference, we have to tell parents that there is no need for activity restriction. Child is allowed to be his or her usual self. If child want to go for bicycling, then he can go, but he should wear a helmet. There is restriction on climbing heights because if child develops seizure at height, he may fall and he may have grievous injuries. Swimming, the child can go for swimming, but it should be supervised. School teacher of the child should be informed about the disease of the child, and facility of rectal diazepam should be available in all schools, and domiciliary management should be taught to parents. Various non-pharmacological measures are also used in treatment of epilepsy, and these measures are commonly used when child is not responding to usual drug treatment. Epilepsy surgery is in the form of lesionectomy, hemispherectomy and corpus callosotomy. Ketogenic diet in which fat to non-fat ratio is kept 4:1, and we can give it for a trial for 3 to 6 months period. Vagal nerve stimulation is another modality, and cannabidiol is also a modality, but it is under trial. Then what is refractory epilepsy? It is actually failure to respond on 2 anti-epileptic drugs with maximum tolerable doses for a period of 2 years. Now what is the prognosis? 70% children on anti-epileptic drug for 2 years successfully stop the drug. Children with epilepsy are 5 times higher risk of dying early, and the common causes of dying are complication of the seizure, like child may aspirate at the time, or child may have accident during the seizure, child may die because of comorbidities, because of psychotrauma he may commit suicide, and SUDEP is another cause of death in children with epilepsy. That is, SUDEP is sudden unexpected death in epilepsy, and death in people with epilepsy that are not caused by injury, drowning or other known causes.